Call this meeting to order. Rick, would you lead us in the pledge, please? Thank you. And if you call the roll, please.
Yes, Mrs. Boring. Here. Mr. Gerber.
Here.
Mr. Missy Zerker. Here. Mr. Keenan. Here. Mr. Reiner.
Here.
Mayor Lecklider.
Here.
Vice Mayor Saleh.
You're here. Sir. Thank you. I'm bothered. Thank you. And we don't.
What's that?
We don't have any proclamations.
Pen for you?
Okay. It's that time for citizen comments. Mr. Maurer. Mr. Maurer is signed up.
Seen him.
All right.
Going once, going twice.
I've not seen him in the building.
I hope nothing happened.
Most likely signed in earlier, is my guess.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Appears that Mr. Maurer is not with us at the moment, so moving on to the consent agenda. Is there any item, there are just two, that a council member wishes to pull from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would move that we approve the actions requested for the two items listed on the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And if you call for the vote?
Vice Mayor Saleh. Yes. Mayor Lecklider.
Yes.
Mr. Reiner.
Yes.
Mr. Keenan.
Yes.
Mr. Missy Zerker. Mr. Gerber.
Yes.
Mrs. Boring. Yes.
Great, thank you. Moving on to second readings, ordinance 36-12.
Adopting the proposed tax budget for fiscal year 2013.
Thank you. Ms. Mooma, whenever you're ready.
Good evening, members of council. We have included in your packet a revised version of the 2013 tax budget for your consideration for approval this evening. As you know, this legislation authorizes our submission of the tax budget to the county by the required deadline of July 20th. It must be passed by this body by July 15th. The income tax revenues for 2012 have been adjusted from what we were originally anticipating at the beginning of the year. We were planning a flat increase over 2011, and we've adjusted those figures up about 2% based on our income tax revenues through the first quarter of the year. I am happy to report that through May, roughly we are up about 5.8%. But again, sticking with our conservative nature, we are anticipating just a 2% increase in our income tax revenues for 2012. We've maintained that level of income tax revenue for 2013. On the expenditure side of the equation, we are planning an increase in our overall expenditures of approximately 2.5%. Based on Councilmember Keenan's comments the last meeting, we have included advances. I apologize that these were not included in the prior version that you received. These are advances, the revenue is advances being repaid to either the general fund or the capital improvement fund, and it also includes advances out. Most of the time, those advances are to advance fund to our tax increment financing funds for various capital infrastructures, expenditures that occur prior to those service payments coming in. We have kept the allocation of the inside millage dedicated between the capital improvement fund and the parkland acquisition fund the same as what it's been in years past. We will have an opportunity to discuss this further when we bring forward the capital improvement program for 2013 through 2017, whereby council will have an opportunity to see what the needs are. But at this point, our inside millage towards the capital improvement fund is 1.4 mils, with 0.35 mils going to the parkland acquisition fund. As a reminder, this allocation still does provide council the flexibility to use funds that go into the capital improvement fund for parkland acquisition should the need arise or the desire arise. With that, I will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
No. Just thanks for the clarification, and it was very clear. I understand what you did there, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Anyone else? Great, thank you. And if you call for the vote, please.
Yes, Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mrs. Waring? Yes. Mr. Missy Zerker? Mr. Gerber?
Yes.
Mayor Lucklider?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Salee?
Yes.
Thank you. Ordinance 37-12.
Authorizing the city manager to execute necessary conveyance documentation to acquire a 0.172 acre more or less fee simple interest with 0.084 acres as present road occupied and a combined 0.031 acre more or less temporary construction easement from Iocaveta Properties Limited.
Thank you. Mr. Hammersmith.
Mayor, members of council, we have before you yet again another acquisition of right-of-way necessary to construct Emerald Parkway Phase 8 at some point in the future. This particular acquisition is from Iocaveta Properties Limited, located at 3985 Bright Road. And on the exhibit, it's actually on the south side of Bright Road and would be to the east of where Emerald Parkway would connect with Bright Road itself. The acquisition cost that we negotiated with the Iocaveta Properties Limited was $15,000. Staff recommends adoption of this ordinance this evening, and I'll answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Questions? Hearing none. And if you call for the vote, please.
Mr. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Salee?
Yes.
Mrs. Waring? Yes. Mayor Lucklider?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Missy Zerker?
Thank you. Ordinance 38-12.
Authorizing the city manager to execute necessary conveyance documentation to acquire a 2.0 acre more or less fee simple interest from Mary M. Say and Charles J. Peffel.
Thank you.
Once again, related to the Emerald Parkway Phase 8 project, this is an acquisition from Mary Say and Charles Pethel at 4045 Bright Road, again along the south side of Bright Road, immediately adjacent to where the new roundabout will be constructed at the intersection of Emerald Parkway and Bright Road. The city was able to successfully negotiate a land acquisition or transaction with Ms. Say and Ms. Pethel, the combined owners. This will be a total take of the property, considering the impact on the property, both in terms of the right-of-way and in the proposed permanent easement shown in yellow, and then also we will have a temporary construction easement. The negotiated sale was for $300,000, and again, this will allow us to move forward with this construction in the future, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Hearing none. And if you call for the vote.
Mayor Lucklider?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mrs. Waring? Mr. Missy Zerker? Vice Mayor Salee?
Yes.
Mr. Gerber?
Yes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the first reading of ordinances, ordinance 40-12.
Authorizing provision of certain incentives to Boundtree Medical LLC to induce it to expand an office and associated operations and workforce within the city. Authorizing execution of an economic development agreement.
Introduction, please.
I'll introduce it.
Thank you. Mr. Clark.
Yeah, good evening, members of council. Before you for first reading is an economic development agreement with Boundtree Medical in support of a potential expansion resulting from an out-of-state consolidation. The expansion would result in 55 new jobs at an average annual wage of $47,000. The expansion would occur at Bountree's existing facility at 5000 Tuttle Crossing Boulevard, where Boundtree currently employs 145 people. The proposed economic development agreement in support of this project is a 5-year, 25% performance incentive capped at $50,000 for the term of the agreement. Staff estimates that the expansion would net approximately $137,883 in new income tax withholdings. And a company representative will be present at a second reading, but I'd be happy to take any questions you have at this time.
Questions? Can you give us an example? You say there's currently 145 jobs
That's correct.
here in Dublin. And what kind of jobs? I mean, I know, are they, as you've described in here, account managers, customer service representatives, et cetera?
Yeah, executive level, it is their headquarters, so executive level positions as well as some customer service capacity and administrative.
Dublin is their national headquarters?
Yes, that's correct.
That's great.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
Glad to see they're looking at staying here and expanding here. Great retention.
Yeah, it's a very good conversations we had that really indicated that, you know, with these incentives and considering the business environment, it's a very good decision for them.
I'm glad they moved out of California and came to a much sunnier, brighter place.
There you go. There you go.
Michael, can we ask how the connection was made?
The connection.
The connection with respect to understanding, did we discover this somehow, or did they approach us?
They approached us, but we've had an ongoing relationship with them. But that communication has been open from both sides, and they approached us with the project.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we had an economic development agreement with
Before,
them
yeah.
in 2004, 2005
moving from
timeframe when they were
California
first
to
locating or
existing
looking
sites
to
in
locate
Pennsylvania,
their
Dublin.
business. And so that was part of their agreement to locate to Dublin was our EDA that we had at that time.
Yeah, I thought it sounded familiar. Well, great.
Glad to have them.
Well, we look forward to the second reading.
Great, thank you.
Thanks very much. Ordinance 41-12.
Authorizing the city manager to accept the dedication of a 0.035 acre more or less permanent easement for multi-use path drainage and grading and a 0.040 acre more or less temporary construction and grading easement from Lex Investments LLC and declaring an emergency.
Introduction, please. Thank you. Mr. Hammersmith?
Mayor and members of council, previously you had before you three acquisitions necessary for us to be able to construct a shared use path along the south side of Stone Ridge Lane, west of Dublin Center Drive. Those previously were from National Church Residence, Stone Ridge Medical, and then Italia Homes. Lastly, you have before you this evening a donation of the necessary easement for the shared use path from Lex Investments, who owns a small triangular piece of property along the south side of Stone Ridge Lane between Stone Ridge Medical and Italian Homes. They have agreed to donate this. This will allow us to proceed with the construction of this shared use path. And as a result, staff this evening is recommending that you dispense with the second reading and treat this as an emergency so construction can commence immediately. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Move to treat as an emergency.
Thank you very much. And if you call for the vote?
Vice Mayor Salee? I'm sorry, Mayor Lechleiter?
Yes.
Mr. Gerber?
Yes.
Mrs. Boring? Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner? Ms. Janice Zerker?
Yes.
Thank you. And on the ordinance, please?
Mrs. Boring? Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Ms. Janice Zerker?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Salee?
Yes.
Mayor Lechleiter?
Yes.
Mr. Gerber?
Yes.
And Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And Paul, if I could suggest, you may do this anyway, but if council is in agreement, a letter to these individuals expressing council's and the city's gratitude for their dedication.
Yep. We will do that. We did that with the previous three.
Right.
So, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you very much.
I'm just wondering if we should consider some kind of policy where we either, I don't know if it's tickets to the tournament or it's tables to this July 4th or it's a monument downtown to the people who step forward and donate their property to us. The taxpayers, I'm sure, are as tired as the rest of you are, is buying off these little snippets of property that are adding up to huge amounts of dollars. And it'd be great if we could, and last meeting, we had somebody else donate their right away, so.
Right.
I'd like to see us come up with some kind of program to thank these people that's a little more fixed than just a letter, because this is money saved by all of us.
You know, maybe a little plaque on the actual property.
Yeah.
I could break.
Because then, I mean, then that's a relationship to the property that's been donated. And of course, in this case, it's even better because it's for a walking and bike path. So
Right.
people would be really using it and see that it was a donation. It's a great idea.
Or even a public plaque somewhere downtown for all the people that stepped forward and donated their property. So everybody could read it when they're eating their ice cream cones down there. Sort of set the example for the rest of them.
I really like Mayor Lee's suggestion because it shows exactly where it is. And we've always talked about how to make sidewalks interesting. And then we could have something in there that makes it interesting. And the other thing we need to be careful of, there has been a case where someone donated property and personally did not want people to know they donated property, so you need to be careful in those particular situations if they want it or not.
Sure.
We
And
can
property owners
follow
may
up.
change. Let me make a suggestion, if council's in agreement, that we have staff study this and come back to us with some proposals.
Sure.
Does that work?
Good idea.
Sounds good.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep.
I think we got all our votes in on that. Moving on to resolutions, Resolution 28-12.
Appointing a member to an unexpired term in the Personnel Board of Review.
Thank you.
Amy, that was Amy.
Yes.
I was able to finally connect with Gary Joseph. He was a bit elusive, but when we finally did speak, he's very excited to serve on the Personnel Board of Review, and he will accept our appointment. So I would move that we appoint Gary Joseph to the unexpired term on the Personnel Board of Review.
Second.
Thank you. And if you call for the vote, please.
Mayor Lucklider?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Mr. Missy Zerker?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mr. Gerber?
Yes.
Mrs. Waring?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Salee?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Moving quickly on to the other portion of our agenda, Tax Incentive Review Council Report. Mayor Lee?
Yes, we had a meeting on May 22nd, as you can see in your packet, of the Tax Increment Review Council, which is, I think all of our members were able to participate. And as you can see from the minutes, they represent a wide spectrum of interested parties, and from council, John and myself were present. You can see from the minutes that we reviewed the status report that's attached, which I believe we've actually seen earlier, and accepted all of the report as given to us by Ms. Muma. And so this evening, I'm requesting that, or staff and I are requesting that council accept the minutes as presented and move forward.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? Hearing none. And if you call for the vote, please.
Mr. Missy Zerker?
Yes.
Mrs. Waring?
Yes.
Mr. Reiner?
Yes.
Mayor Lucklider?
Yes.
Mr. Gerber?
Yes.
Mr. Keenan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Salee?
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on, the chief is going to share with us 2012 Police Division Goals and Objectives Progress Summary. Whenever you're ready, Chief.
As soon as I figure out the technology. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Thank you. As discussed in the last council meeting, I wanted to give you an update on the police department's activities this year and a little update on our goals and objectives. That's what I'm going to start with. As you know, for the last several years, our goals and objectives have been pretty much the same. We're focused on reducing thefts, and primarily this year, thefts of vehicles, burglaries and breaking and enterings, crashes, and then our fourth one is to be prepared for major crimes and critical incidents. Just to give you a rundown on where we are this year on our goals and objectives, we are a little bit above last year at this point. This is through April of this year. We've had 57 thefts from vehicles so far as compared to 49 last year, but as you can see, we're still well below the numbers from 2010. In fact, we're about 42% below that number. Same with breaking and entering, just slightly above, 3 above. And again, these numbers are very low numbers, especially for a city of 42,000 people. But although we're a little above our numbers from last year at this point, again, we're about 51% below the numbers from just 2 years ago, 2010. Crashes were traffic crashes, which is always an issue in the city. We just we do see that we're about the same as last year. We're a few below, 3 below. But again, significantly below the number from 2010. We're about 44% below that number, which we find very encouraging. The fourth goal, as far as being prepared for critical incidents and major crime, obviously over 80% of our crime is property-type crime, but every once in a while we have those violent crimes that crop up. And this year, at the beginning of the year, obviously we all know was an anomaly, but we did experience a rash of armed robberies, a homicide. I'm glad to say that all of those were solved. There was a result of 7 arrests out of all those. It cleared all 4 of the robberies, the homicide. We contributed to clearing that burglary up in Powell, In addition, the suspect from the UDF robbery was also implicated in, I think, 17 robberies between Dublin, Columbus, and Franklin County. So very happy with those results. We've also, some of the things we've done along that are connected with this goal, we met with community members over in the rec center after our second robbery to do a business safety forum. We created the safety brochure that we still use for our businesses to help them, give them some education on tips to keep them safe from business robberies. Completed our in-service training for all our sworn staff, which is a pretty significant undertaking. Every year we have 2 training rotations for all our staff. Our first one was done in February and March. Although it doesn't sound like a large number, we've had 7 arrests of theft for vehicle suspects this year so far, which actually resulted in clearing 14 cases. And while that doesn't sound significant, that is about 25% of our total number for the year of cases, which is a very good average for solving and clearing those cases. But what you don't see in that number is most of the time when we arrest these suspects, this isn't the first time, obviously, they've broken into a car. And there's a lot of thefts that are associated with most of these suspects that we can't actually connect to a crime, and we can't actually get enough evidence to charge them. So a lot of times when we arrest 1 suspect, 2 suspects, it actually results in a significant drop, at least while they're going through the system, in thefts from vehicles. So that number, 14 cleared cases, we think is very encouraging for this year. We were awarded our 6th CALEA Reaccreditation Award. For the 3rd time in a row, we got the highest recognition from CALEA, accreditation with excellence. Several traffic complaints that we're still working on in the area of Washington Elementary, Coventry Woods, as I know Mr. Keenan's aware of. We're still working on those, and we get those periodically. That takes up a significant number of the patrol officers' hours. We have upcoming training exercises that we're doing with other neighboring departments to deal with crowd control scenarios and geared towards our special events and our large events. Although those are very low incident, high impact situations, we want to be prepared for them, so we are planning training exercises for those. And then we also did help plan and execute the escort and procession detail for the recent military funerals. Thefts from vehicles and burglaries do remain our #1 areas of focus, and we think that's going to be like that probably for the foreseeable future. Just some of the facts I wanted to point out to you. Over 60% of these occur where there's actually forced entry to a vehicle. Majority of our thefts from vehicles occur in the late afternoon, early evening hours, and the majority occur in commercial parking lots, office buildings, restaurants, hotels, shopping malls. The vast majority, almost all of the thefts from vehicles occur where the property was actually in plain view in the vehicle. 80% of our residential burglaries occurred through either an open garage door, an unlocked door, an unlocked window. And the vast majority of those burglaries occur where there's no alarm system. I know our residents are probably getting tired of hearing me say those facts because we repeat them at every Meet the Police meeting we go to, and we think it's having an impact. Some of the current crime trends that we're addressing right now: thefts from vehicles in the area of Dublin Village Center. That continues to be an ongoing issue. It kind of comes and goes, but it's a general area of focus that we see every year. In the last few weeks, that has gone down, and I think it's because of our some high impact things that we're doing in that area. They have gone down. Hotel burglaries, we had a rash of hotel burglaries where we were getting flat screen TVs stolen from hotel rooms. It wasn't just happening in Dublin, but we had quite a few of them. We have identified a suspect, and we're working right now to close a prosecution case on that suspect. And apartment burglaries, you've seen some crime alerts we put out to the residents and to the press. These have been occurring in Dublin, southern Delaware County, northwest Columbus, and that's a big focus for us right now. We've had 12 just in Dublin since May 2nd. I will say that since May 29th, when we really kind of increased our efforts in this area, we've had none. So we're hoping that that trend continues, but we also want to find who's responsible for this. Since the beginning of the year, we have continued our Meet the Police meetings. This is a list of the 13 Meet the Police meetings we've had to date, not just residential HOAs, but also Greater Dublin Realty, HDBA, Chamber of Commerce. We're trying to include the business associations as well. And as I said, the focus we feel for the police division is going to continue to be these 4 areas, at least through the end of this year. We'll continue with that. We meet every month, as we've mentioned before, in our accountability meetings with our command staff. We re-examine the intelligence and the statistics that we're looking at. We want to make sure that we're putting our resources in the right places at the right times and doing the right things and focusing on these goals. So we think that this is going to be the trend for at least the rest of this year. And every time I get a chance, I'd like to try to remind everybody that these are some of the things you can do to help us reduce crime in Dublin. You know, we tell people all the time, just because you leave a laptop or your purse sitting on the front seat of your car doesn't make it okay for someone to steal your stuff, but why make it so easy for them? So there's some very simple things people can do to help us reduce crime in Dublin. As I mentioned before, 80% of our burglaries in residential areas are through open garage doors, unlocked doors, or unlocked windows. If people would just close their garage doors, lock their front doors, lock their back doors, and lock their windows, we could reduce 80% of our burglaries. Lock all vehicle doors, don't leave items in plain view, install a car alarm in your vehicle, park in areas where there's good lighting, where you see cameras, like in shopping center parking lots. Keep your garage doors closed, keep all your doors and windows locked in your residence. Buy an alarm system for your home and use it. Even if you don't have an alarm system, get signs that say you do, put them in your window. Keep bushes and shrubs trimmed near your windows and doors. Use our vacation watch service. If you're out of town, people can get access to the vacation watch service either by calling us at the police department or by going to our website. There's a link where you can send in information for the vacation watch service on our website. Have your neighbor collect newspapers and mail if you're away, or have the post office and the the newspaper service stop delivery if you're going to be gone for a significant amount of time, and get good, high-quality locks and deadbolts. And this has become a bigger issue with our apartment burglaries. We've noticed that some of these apartment burglaries, the majority of them, as a matter of fact, have been where there's no forced entry, but we believe they're gaining access on locked doors. And there's various ways they do that, but if you buy high-quality locks and use deadbolts religiously, you can defeat those type of burglaries, because they can't do the typical type of things they do to get in those doors if you got a good deadbolt or a real good lock. So with that, I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Questions or comments?
Just have one. And you mentioned that traffic crashes are down, and that's been an ongoing goal, and certainly that's excellent. What do you think the keys are in terms of police work that's resulting in the decrease?
Well, like I said, our philosophy in policing is, it's a community policing philosophy, but it's an intelligence-led policing philosophy. So as I said, our command staff meets every month to look at the trends and where things are occurring, where hotspots are. We look at hotspots for the thefts, we look at hotspots for burglaries and breaking and enterings, or any other crime that crops up that we haven't seen a trend before. And then we also look at hotspots for crashes. And accordingly, what we try to do is look at the times those are occurring, the areas those are occurring, and put our resources in those areas. I mean, some of the stuff we do, we don't want to discuss in an open forum, but the other stuff is just obvious, old-fashioned police patrol work. We put cruisers in the area, we run radar, we run laser. We try to make sure that our cruisers are at least visible in those areas. We try to make sure that we're taking good accident reports, so that if there's ongoing issues that perhaps there's an engineering issue that could help with an accident scenario in a certain area, we can pass that on to engineering. We communicate regularly with them if there's any trends that we see that perhaps could be dealt with on an engineering basis. And Cosgrave and Shire Rings is a good example. We've worked with engineering for several years on the fact that we saw a lot of crashes in that intersection. We saw that the intersection was experiencing a high incidence of injury accidents, and as a result, engineering's going to be putting a roundabout, and we're very, very glad that that's happening. You're welcome.
Other questions or comments?
I appreciate the information. I know I was really interested in it. And the one thing I know, I've had a lot of people speak, even if they might not always have been able to attend your community forums, but people are really encouraged by you doing that. And I'm glad to see the amount of community forums you've been able to hold so far, and I would encourage that to always be top on your agenda, because I know that people that do attend, of course, really get value, but you do the minutes afterwards, which I assume are on the website and given to the HOAs of those particular areas to distribute. But, what you've done is really bring, like you say, community policing. I mean, police are part of the community, and people really feel good about that. And I think on all of our surveys, safety's always been number one, if not close to number one. So I'm really encouraged by the work that you're doing.
Thank you. Well, we take that seriously. Community policing is a phrase that's been out there for a long time, but we really think that the community, we certainly can't fight crime alone, and we need the community's help. And our upcoming Citizens Police Academies, one of the ways we're trying to work with the community, and I know that at least one member of council will maybe attending that, so I'm very happy, and I appreciate that. And anyone who from council, if you would like to come and at least view one of the classes and see what it's all about, we'd love to have you. But we're very encouraged that we've gotten such an outpouring of support for that initiative too. I think we're up to almost 30 attendees so far.
Any other questions or comments? Chief, I was hoping to catch Mr. Hammersmith. He might have thought that his evening was over. I don't know if Ken can help us, and I don't want to belabor this, but since we're talking about accidents and so forth, and I do appreciate there was some email traffic in this regard, but the Muirfield, Dublinshire situations that we were having there, I don't know whether somebody said that they didn't think a dedicated northbound or southbound, for that matter, left turn lane was warranted. I just wanted to comment, because this was in some of the email traffic, and I think that I indicated that I use that intersection fairly often. When I'm northbound, I feel as though I'm exposed to being, potentially rear-ended, based upon the traffic behind me. I mean, it because of the speeds and so forth. So, anyway, I think that, and maybe you can comment on this. I'm not sure that I understood some of the residents' comments, but they, I believe, had spoken with some of your staff who had said, somebody thought that maybe you could get in that no man's land in between, and if I understood the email correctly, they were suggesting that they were told by the police officer that you should not wait to make your turn in that, that no man's land, that's in between the medians, that you should stay in the dedicated left turn. I don't know whether that's the case or not.
Well, if you're saying, if you're on Muirfield Drive waiting to turn onto Dublinshire?
That's correct.
Yeah, actually, they should get into that safety area to make the turn. That's the safest way to do it.
It makes sense to me, and so maybe I misunderstood. Yeah, but I don't, I think there may be unique circumstances surrounding those incidents that occurred there. But if somebody gets a green light at Terre Hill, for example, and they're northbound, I mean, they're not stopped. There is no traffic control from Pruner to what, Glick Road? I mean,
well,
there are roundabouts, of course. That slows them down at Brian Road. But anyway, I'm sure that we've had the stealth stat out there, and
yes, as a matter of fact, most of the traffic complaints we had in that area were actually about Dublinshire, and we didn't see any evidence of a speeding issue on Dublinshire, and that's where most of the traffic complaints have been. So,
right, and people need to be careful crossing what is really 5 or more lanes of traffic. If they're going all the way across or whatever. But I just, my personal experience has been that, the traffic, whether it's northbound or southbound there, travels at a speed that, if you're waiting to make a left turn, people are in a hurry to get somewhere. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, We have an invitation to serve on an I-270 US 33 State Route 161 interchange upgrade steering committee. Marcia.
Yes, there was a memo in your packet that discussed the fact that ODOT will be having a stakeholder steering committee for this project, and that a member of council is invited to be on the steering committee, but recognizing that that can create issues with schedules because of the meetings are typically during the workday, and they're anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours. We did talk with ODOT, and they said that we could have a staff appointment. I would be more than happy to do that, or if we want to have a council member that wants to attend, but in the instance that you can't attend, we would be more than happy at staff level to do that. So it's your pleasure if you want to attend or have us at staff level do it. Just so you know, Jeannie Willis is on the project team that's referenced in the attached information, and works very closely with the consultant and ODOT on this project. And Paul is also involved, but Jeannie, she works with them on a regular basis on this project.
Are you volunteering to appear in our stead?
I can do that, yes. I would be happy to do that.
The question that I had was, obviously, some of the institutional agencies, it would be staff, but from the Franklin County and Union County engineers, they're both elected positions, right? And then I was interested in knowing, in the cities of Columbus, Hilliard, and Marysville, were there elected people who were actually going to be representing, or were they staff?
Yeah, and we haven't heard yet who will be actually attending the meetings. And I don't know, Paul's not in here. I know they. Okay. I mean, they want to try to have their first meeting in late June, and it's not been scheduled yet, so I don't know that that's going to happen. But we can try to find out between now and the next council meeting if the other communities have made their appointment or not. Or we can always put someone down on council that wants to attend. And again, if you can't attend, you can always designate somebody else to attend. And it could be anyone on staff, or it could be me to attend those meetings.
What are your thoughts, Mary Lee?
Well, you know, I think Mike had always been involved in the 33 corridor area. And if there was half the group were elected officials, then I kind of like a dual representation if someone on council was interested to have both an elected person and a staff person.
Anyone?
Well, I know most of the players here as far as the Union County engineer. I know the people in Hilliard, the people in Marysville. I'd be happy to do that, assuming if that's council's pleasure. And we could certainly rotate it too. But I think if we have other elected public officials, we should have a presence, at least one of us should be involved in that in some way, shape, or form. Really, probably even more importantly for the community advisory group. Is that a separate issue as well?
Yeah, it is, and I haven't heard when they're looking at, I mean, they're looking at maybe the steering committee being a part of, so I don't know if that's the other thing that they're looking at, whoever gets to be on, or whoever is on the steering committee, that they would also then be on the advisory committee.
I'm
They're
happy
not
to
all
do-
the same representation, though.
Mm-hmm.
Mike?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that if you think, if that meets with council's pleasure.
I see nodding heads. So, Mike, thank
Doesn't
you.
surprise me.
Thank you very, yeah, congratulations. Thank you very much. Was there anything else in that regard?
Just quickly there was a pretty detailed memo in your packet with regard to the community plan update. And just to let you know, one of the big differences this time, we're looking at an interactive community plan and using the website, and that's going to be launched in the next week or so, sometime in the middle of the month. And so we just wanted to make you aware of that, and that we are going to be having the first open house on Thursday, June 14th at the Rec Center. And if you want us to give some type of update or presentation on the website, we can do that tonight or at any future date that you would prefer. So it's more of just an informational thing, and if you want some updated information, we have staff here that would be more than happy to present that.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, I have one comment. I don't, you know, maybe to just ask it ahead of time and not do an update if you all don't want it. I think in Chapter 9, it has to do with the stormwater, and we don't, I looked through the memo, which I must have left at home at this point. I didn't notice that there was anything that provided an update to that area as far as policy or looks or whatever, and I thought we had seen some innovative ways to treat stormwater management in the Bridge Street corridor, in hoping that we could do some statement of update in that Chapter 9.
Absolutely, and I think that was just an oversight in the memo, but engineering is working very closely on some new language that captures that policy intent of council related to both new stormwater types of facilities for the Bridge Street district as well as throughout the city.
Okay, thank you. That's the only thing I noticed that I would hope. I would really like those innovative ways of treating it that we saw examples of, and hope that we can continue, to pursue that. Thank you.
I perhaps overlooked it, but what is the time frame of the project?
The overall timeframe of this project is to have a full proposed amendment to the community plan to council in time for your consideration by the end of the year.
Okay, so the end of this calendar year.
Yes.
Great. I'm encouraged.
That's a good question. Yeah. Anybody else with respect to community plan update?
And the only
Thank
final
you.
thing is that we plan on bringing the updated goals to council, the legislation at the next meeting. So you'll see that in your packet. And that's it.
Okay. Very good. Moving on to roundtable then. Mike, would you like to start?
Yeah, I saw in our packet here, the policy update regarding utility extension to areas not served, et cetera. Marcia, I think you generated that, but at some point, I'd like to know more about that. I'm not sure when that full report's going to be ready, but that's an area that it seems like it has leveled out, which is a good thing. But we are spending time, and I'd like to know what our what you're coming up with in terms of options and those kinds of things for future reference.
Yeah, we're looking to have some policy options for sometime near the end of the third quarter.
So we will
this
have a
year-
discussion at council level to that end.
Yes,
to-
and we will have some updated information with regard to estimates on
Cost and such.
cost as part of the CIP. Not to go into any detailed discussion at that time, but we can just
Okay.
touch on some of those updates.
Good. And then just a quick thanks to all the staff for their efforts making this memorial tournament such a success. I know there's a lot of hours put in, and really appreciate everything everybody did. Thank you. That's all.
Thanks. Rick?
I had occasion to read the Battelle study. As you remember, we had this, I think, last October or November, that we engaged Battelle to do a study on the economic forecasting of the city and those type of businesses we want to attract, what are the trends in the industry and so forth. And there was a provision in there that talked about tax credits and other incentives to possibly mirror those of the state of Ohio. And I don't need an answer now, but I was kind of curious what thoughts are taking place, what's going on, maybe to consider something like that, and maybe at a future roundtable or sometime during the budget process, maybe we can learn more about that.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. John?
Marcia, I was just curious if the staff is ready for a meeting with the Development Committee on the Dublin Arts Council.
Yeah, we can schedule that meeting. There was some discussion with David about the possibility of meeting with, I think it was the board president and maybe one other employee ahead of the meeting with the development committee. But we don't have any issue with going directly to the community development committee. And as far as the time frames, we'd be ready anytime.
Well,
So
I
if you wanna
think
go
we
ahead and schedule.
stated that we wanted to put this behind us, and we were going to take care of it in June, so what is the wishes of the council?
What about Monday the 25th, since it's like off traveling?
I'll be out of,
Wait.
the state.
You don't- Oh, okay. Well, John, you want Ann to poll us tomorrow
Ann, you want to do that?
with, dates that are possible? Okay.
Just the committee?
No, actually, it's the full committee.
You're
Anybody
talking about
can make it.
development committee, aren't you? Pardon, community development
Community
committee?
services, yeah.
So it's just the three?
Well,
Yeah,
actually,
Well, I think you should,
this is,
Anyone else
because of what it
who's-
is.
yeah, this is going to set new policy, so we're hoping to have everybody present.
What I'm concerned about, John, is that if we're gonna poll all 7 of us for dates available, that's gonna be cumbersome.
Well,
And
no, you can use the Google system.
No, I'm just saying people have other plans, and I see, maybe not all 7 wanna come.
What about next month?
Well, we'll find out when,
Well, maybe they can indicate that in their response.
yeah. Ann?
Throw some dates out
So are you setting a date, or what's?
Ann's gonna poll tomorrow.
You're going to poll us?
tomorrow.
Okay.
We can't just say next Monday?
Next Monday sounds good to me. How's that for everybody else?
The 11th?
The 11th?
Who's on your committee?
Anybody know what the
Amy and
weather-
It'll be Amy and Catherine.
John, the only issue on that, Sarah is out next week
Oh, okay.
and won't be available.
She definitely has to be there. Okay. Why don't you poll us? It's going to be a little more difficult than we
Always is.
Okay, and the other item again, and I brought this up over numerous years, is again, we mentioned it tonight, some kind of thank you, a permanent thank you for those people who donate their property instead of charging the city. I just think it's right and just, and it sets a good example for future acquisitions. So some kind of public acknowledgement for those people who are kind enough to be that public spirited and to want to give up their property and their finances related to their property for the good of the common good of the town. So,
We'll look into that and bring back some options.
thank you.
Thanks. Mayor Lee?
I was wondering if, when Michelle gets back, if we could have her on our agenda to give a presentation about her experiences
Oh, sure.
with, I've been following her on Facebook, and it sounds very interesting, and I'm sure that she will learn quite a bit to share with us, and certainly being in another country to observe some of the things they've done.
Sure, yeah, we can schedule that.
I really appreciated the invite to have dinner with the Consul General of Ireland last week. I thought it was an interesting dinner, and I think he appreciated being here. Unfortunately, he's not available this year for our Dublin Irish Festival, as he'll just be returning that Sunday from Ireland, but was interested in coming some other years. So hopefully we'll be able to entertain him in the future. But I think he seemed to enjoy himself and enjoyed the tournament and all. I'm the person who signed up for the Citizen Police Academy, so I'll be going through that, guys.
Don't give her a gun.
John,
One more
something?
comment, Tim. I thought you gave a very nice impromptu speech for the Consul General of Japan the other afternoon. I thought that was well done. So,
You
at
mean
the
Ireland,
luncheon.
don't you?
No, the Japanese
Oh,
luncheon.
sorry.
Yes.
Thank you, John, I'm sorry.
Good job.
I'm sorry, I confusing my consul generals.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was
No,
a busy
very kind.
Council General week.
You're very kind, thank you, that was nice, thanks.
Yeah.
Mary Lee, did you have anything else? Kathy?
I have 2 things. I'm sure we all got a memo or email from B. Fishman about the pianos with, I think, Mr. Fishman brought before us. And it's interesting because there seems to be like a planned organization that can help us if we want to do this. I also was at a community that this happened in Colorado, which means it doesn't have great weather. But if council's interested, I'd like for staff to look at the possibility of that and what it would entail, because there is an organization that you don't have to start from square one that she had included in that memo. I assume you were copied on that.
I don't think I've seen her memo
It's got a link.
or her email.
It's got a link to an organization or
Right.
whatever. I saw it today.
So if other council, just council. You didn't get it either? Sarah
Yeah,
has it?
you can forward it on.
If the rest of council is interested, I'd like for the staff to look into that?
Was this something that one of our committees could also be doing? Crack or somebody else?
The Dublin Arts Council is also interested in it. So,
I don't understand how the, are these outside?
yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I mean, how does a piano hold up in the rain and snow?
Well,
just-
actually, Warren went into research on this, Mike, and looked all over downtown for areas. And the tunnel over by Starbucks, he thought putting one in there would be great. And also, they also build a little tent or a ledge out over the piano. And some of them, even though they were old wooden pianos, someone had wrapped them in aluminum and set them out. But the weather is much more conducive to pianos in LA than they are
That probably
here.
wouldn't
but
meet our sign code very well, but
I think.
It's a neat idea.
sometimes
We got to try it.
They have, I know this sounds laborious, but they cover them at night, and then, maybe somebody, the first person in the morning. The ones I saw were kind of heavily painted with like paint that would resist rain or something like that, but of course, you can't do that on the keys or whatever. But that's why I like somebody to look at what the program entails, because I would hope that that would address those issues.
you'd have to be careful if something turned into an eyesore that you'd have the mechanism to remove it. But it seems like with temperature change and everything else, I don't know how you keep it in tune.
Yeah,
and-
I would like to know how
I
they
mean, we
address
can't
those
keep a
issues.
piano tune in our house, let alone outside in the rain and
Put it
weather.
outside, it might work better.
There you go. Okay.
Then the second thing I would like to bring up is listing of council members' names, and I guess maybe I didn't understand the conversation last time. What I heard was that Tim was only addressed as Timothy with his mother, and he wanted to be known as Tim. At no time did I, they said, informal, at no time do I want my middle initial dropped for me personally, because I want to stay consistent with all the other records, how I sign my name on everything, my business card, and just for general information, my legal name is Kathy, so I haven't shortened it from Catherine. So for me, I would ask that my middle initial be included on all records.
None of them, because, I mean, I've always used a more formal name on a public office, and I just think Mike sounds, I'd rather have the full Michael middle initial, like I always have.
I
So,
only have one name, so I don't have to worry about it.
you got lots of names.
I think the two that were in question, as I remember, was Tim's, and then the question was with Rick, if he wanted to be Richard or Rick.
Well, Mike's is also because Michael's his real name.
But I don't remember the conversation included.
I don't know how it even came up. I'm happy with what it's always been.
Which is
Just
what?
Michael
Mike.
H., yeah, that's,
Oh, well, here it's.
for me
Virginia.
personally.
Well, these are just options.
These
that
are-
were-
Options.
These are just options, folks. I think you can be called whatever you want to be called.
Yeah,
I opted to be called Tim. No, seriously. That's, I mean, it's obviously a personal preference.
Yeah, and I think that we should, maybe staff would want to contact each one of us to make sure
You
that
got
that's
an
correct.
email asking how you wanted to be before this came out.
And we can follow up individually to verify, and there may be differences based on what the document
No, we didn't.
is, so we can follow up on that.
I answered it. We did get an email,
We
but
did get
none of my,
I
I didn't put Mike on any of these. They didn't pay any attention to mine. This is really, I mean, at the end of the day, just ask everybody what they want to be called. and that's-
Exactly,
do it.
exactly, I agree with you,
Yeah, phone call's fine.
exactly. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right. Amy?
As council is aware, I have been attending the meetings, the pre-P and Z meetings, and one of the reasons that council and P and Z were desirous of some council member attending those meetings was to improve communication. And what I talked about with the chairman of the P and Z is the fact that, we don't have a chance to sit down together. And so what I was going to suggest is a planning commission council dinner. I had raised this idea with staff at our meeting. We canceled the last one, but it was 2 meetings ago, I guess, and invited staff to think of maybe some topics for discussion. I mean, just listening tonight, thinking about the community plan update, the things that are happening in the Bridge Street corridor, would be 2 areas that we could cover, and, maybe a brief something to read, something, a brief presentation, but just a chance for us to sit down with P&Z. And I was thinking that, and John mentioned that he's not going to be in town, but I was thinking either June 25th or Thursday, June 28th, might be a couple days. Thursday because I know P&Z pretty much blocks out Thursdays, Mondays because we pretty much block out Mondays. If we don't do it that last week of June, and certainly staff would have to be available and feeling like they were somewhat prepared for this as well. But obviously it would be pushed back into August or September timeframe, and of course August is always very busy for us with our budget hearings and so forth. So I don't know what the pleasure of council is regarding the idea, but I wanted to make sure that we got it in everybody's mind so that we can think about it at least. And I don't know if Ann maybe could poll, or if council even thinks it's a good idea or not.
Absolutely, I think it's something we had done in the past, and I think it's something we need to do and get some type of agenda and maybe make this a springboard for the next activity, but definitely.
Okay.
I agree with that.
All right.
We did these in the past. I think they're very beneficial.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would ask is that, everyone attend, because if it's at all possible, because we've had things before where planning and zoning has attended, and, all 7 of them are there, and we're, less robustly represented, and I think it's important that, it'd be important enough to us to put it on our calendar and make the commitment if we're going to, in fact, host an event.
And I think, Amy, though, but getting into June and July, we're getting the vacation schedules and stuff, so I don't know what P&Z members, they may be breaking as well, so.
Right, well, and understanding that, and that's why I'm, suggested that last week of June, just in case, but I don't, obviously, Ann, if you could maybe poll everyone and find out if either of those dates, and, if we can get, 5 of 7 folks from each board there, then maybe that would be a go, if that's possible.
Great.
The other thing I wanted to bring up, and I had asked Fred about this last meeting, and I wanted to bring it to council's attention because I'm thinking it's probably going to take an act of council to get this rectified, but the new vaults, or I don't know what you call it now, at the Dancing Hare sculpture, the fountain, or the spray park, has been installed. It's quite lovely. It looks good, but somehow there's been a solar tower installed right in front of the Dancing Hares, right center, and we've got this beautiful, well over $200,000 piece of public art, and then we were looking at our spray park, and then there's this tower kind of obliterating the view, and I wanted to find out if it's possible to maybe move that to the north where it wouldn't be quite so obtrusive.
Part of it, we're looking into moving part of it. The strobe itself is the warning for the lightning prediction system, so we don't want to hide the strobe. It's part of that because it kind of defeats the purpose of warning people if they can't see the strobe. But the solar panels and the antenna, I think, can be moved. It's basically talking to the south pool there, so we have to make sure that there is reception between the two. But that's what the structure is.
Okay, when you say talking to the south pool, I'm just confused what...
The south pool actually is the receiver where it's actually tuned into the atmosphere, basically, monitoring, and it sends a signal across the street to the Dancing Hares, and then that strobe then picks up that signal and warns the patrons whether or not there's danger.
Okay.
So,
okay.
But most of what you're seeing is this big pole, big solar panels, and an antenna. We're looking we're looking into can we put those parts of it in different location, and then just have the strobe itself set closer to the top of the wall, with that being the only thing really visible from that angle.
Amy, I'm glad you brought that up, though. There is also a new tower located inside of the park toward the front. Dana, do you know anything about that? Oh.
I don't know anything about that one.
What kind of tower is it? She's talking about a city tower.
Well,
Yeah,
it looks like a cell phone. Is that I don't want to sound dated, but a cell phone tower.
I don't know.
I haven't heard, we'll have to follow up. I don't know.
Okay. Dina, do we still have someone that works with us to try to get those in areas that are not, that are more aesthetic? Okay.
Yeah, you know, our code on wireless communications towers is still in effect, and anytime we know that someone's looking at placing one, we try to proactively work with them. I'm not aware, I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm not aware of what tower you're talking about at
Okay.
Soda Park, so.
I hope.
I know we have
my
a
eyes
siren,
are not-
we have a siren pole there on
maybe that's
on the
what it
south
is.
end. Maybe that's what you're thinking
Is
about.
it
But that's
close
been there
to the
for a long
road?
time. Yeah, that's been
Okay.
there for many years. but
Okay. Well, you know how things just all of a sudden.
Maybe we hid that one well enough, you're just
Yeah.
now noticing it.
All of a
so.
sudden it jumps out at you sometimes.
Yeah, maybe.
It was something there. So it must be the warning that all of a sudden it
I'll double
jumped
check
out
it
at me.
and get back
No,
to
I'm
you.
sure you're right. Okay, thank you.
Systems that he's talking about being put up in various places in the city.
We're at both outdoor pools, Emerald Fields, Dowery Fields, and Avery Park. So really our main, well, those locations, given the type of use and the fact that there's organized or quasi-organized play at those facilities. And this system, again, is basically measuring atmospheric conditions that are conducive for lightning strikes, and it gives both an audible horn blast as well as the visual strobe that says when imminent is there, when it's the danger is imminent, and then gives another blast of the horn when it's passed. And the strobe runs continuously as long as there's danger present, and as soon as the danger passes, the strobe goes out. So that's...
Sounds terrific, but we probably want to be conscious of our wonderful public art pieces, that it doesn't interfere with them.
I think I just heard that. So as I said, we'll get back with you, let you know what we can and can't do with that one.
I really appreciate
Okay.
that. Thank you. That's all I have, Tim. Thanks.
Thank you. John, thank you again for your nice compliments regarding our lunch with the Japanese Consul General, and thank you for attending. I appreciate it. I think that we have a strong relationship with the Consul General's office and his staff and the local Japanese community, not just in Dublin, but throughout Central Ohio, and that's to the credit of our staff, and I think they're certainly very appreciative of Dublin's efforts to reach out to them and continue the collaboration and partnership. Also, speaking of our efforts and interaction with the international community, this evening we have a mural. I don't know if our cameras can pick that up, but it's the silk mural that was given as a gift to City Council. I was not at the dinner. I know Mike and Mary Lee were. Can you give a brief description of what this is?
The right one is the landscape of the actual city that they were from, right? And I think there was a piece of paper that they gave to Dana and Marcia that described what it was, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was some information, and they had a brochure that they
Yeah.
had given us. Yeah, and it's part of their old city.
The area
Right.
in particular was a real area of a lot of silk production apparently
Right.
back in the day. And this is a maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of year old kind of silk technique that was used
Right.
to make these. So it's quite a ornate piece, and it was really impressive when they brought it out. We pointed out that our historic district wasn't nearly as old as their historic district, which I think was the better part of 1,000 years old or older.
This is a great place to display them, really.
Yep. So,
Well, in any case, just wanted to acknowledge that. I've also been reminded that we need to designate a representative Dakota. Don't everybody raise their hand at once?
She's Morpsey.
Oh, no, that was my, I was on CODA.
Nice try, Mike.
I passed it on to Kathy.
She was looking the other way.
I sent an email to everybody that I actually think this is a great opportunity to engage another, opportunity for a citizen. And particularly select somebody, and I think their advertisement should say someone who actually uses CODA. Because I know I found that I was sort of hindered when it was a different makeup of people, but everybody but me really used it on a regular basis and were able to give really good advice of things that were working, not working, or suggestions, and I, was limited in my capacity of what I could contribute. I'm sure Kathy, you were equally challenged.
So, when you listen to the other communities, even though I was promoting public transportation in the idea to coordinate with our development, these other communities had an immediate need to get workers back and forth, and more workers that did ride the bus. So it was like you said, since I didn't ride the bus and wasn't really familiar with the routes.
So
He's right.
what do you think? Direct staff to put an ad together?
I think
or
Marcia
something?
wants
I
to
mean,
say a
we
word.
can look at coming up with some ideas too, with even working with the businesses, or maybe even through the chamber, of some ideas that they may have, especially for companies that have a high utilization of CODA.
Yeah, that didn't work out that great for us, really. We didn't, well, that was a board level position, I think, So.
Were you thinking in terms of maybe residents of Dublin who use CODA to get elsewhere, to get downtown, for example?
Like the park and rides?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so I think you're thinking of it from, internal
Getting
businesses.
here, but I'm thinking of us trying to exit using the bus route. And I know at the time, a couple of years ago anyway, that Bill Loda was saying that, and Marty Stutz, their marketing director, said that our park and ride was only used a limited percent. But every time I go by there, it's completely full. So I was always a little confused by the percent that they alleged. But that was my thinking, was our own residents who are going elsewhere, which I think is a different concept than corporations trying to get people here, which maybe we need two reps, one that does this and, both, because they're as equally important.
We can put an ad out to see if there's any interest. It might be kind of tough to get that audience, but
You'd have to put it at the
see.
bus stop.
Yeah,
I mean, really.
Yeah, really.
That's not a
would.
bad idea,
Yeah.
because they have that covered
Yeah, we can
shelter.
post it there.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I mean, that maybe reach out and see, what the response is. I think unfortunately, because there's not a great deal of service,
It's like a chicken and the egg.
And maybe there's a dual need, because I remember, when we rezoned, this property to the west, Perimeter West, we talked about a dedicated bus stop there, and, I think the hospital was interested, and so forth. So, in any event.
All right, we'll get some ads out and get some information at the park and rides. Perfect.
But nice try, Mike, getting Mary Lee on there, since she put you on the other committee. Thought you'd return the favor. Well, finally, I'd like to thank all of staff for their efforts in connection with the Memorial Tournament. I mean, everybody, from streets and utilities, and to the people that planted all the flowers. I can't tell you how many people came up to me over the course of the week and complimented the city on how nice it looks, and not just those that live within the community, but visitors to the tournament from outside Dublin. I firmly believe that there's no other community in Central Ohio that could do the job that Dublin does in hosting this tournament, and likewise firmly believe that Dublin's efforts, not only this year but the past 36 years, has certainly contributed to the success of this tournament, and certainly will do so into the future. So hats off to everybody, the people that staffed the villa. It was a long week, but I think a successful week both for the tournament and for the city. What a great opportunity for us to showcase the city. Somebody was commenting on the aerial views of the city. Of course, you know, a lot of Muirfield, and deservedly so, you know, but the entire city, and that leaves a lasting and distinct impression on people, you know, throughout the country that are viewing. So my hat's off to everybody. It can't be said enough.
Thank you. And it is very rewarding when you're on the shuttle and you hear people talking and, you know, they're not paying attention who's around them. So it's not like they're getting solicited or they're trying to let you know. So it is very rewarding, and the staff does do an excellent job, and there are a lot of behind-the-scenes work that goes on for months leading up to the tournament, listing of priorities and responsibilities, and going out even during the tournament and checking that things aren't getting missed during that week too. So yeah, the staff invest, and they take a lot of pride in the work that they do. So thank you for your comments.
Okay. Very good. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you.